Starting things isn't easy, especially if you're like me and you have to adhere to a routine, because if you don't, you have a literal breakdown. Working from home like I do, routine is vital or you don't get any work done, which, as you guys have surely noticed by now, I haven't been getting any work done. That's for a lot of reasons, most of which is winter bullying me for my mental and physical health, and quite relentlessly, actually. And judging by how cold it's been, that's not really changing until March. But at least I now can power through of my own volition. As you get older, you become more and more aware of your limits. Most of the time, it's up to you whether or not you want to surpass them. And when you do, you should be careful. I know my limits. I'm a horrible student, even when I try my hardest to concentrate. But you can teach yourself anything. In fact, I'd rather teach myself, provided it's from a legit learning resource, because these days, Google University just doesn't cut it. I've been drawing since I was a kid. I would draw on stacks of printer paper, but when I took drawing classes as a kid and in college, I never really seemed to improve. My teachers picked up on this and instead of, teaching me, encouraged me to give up instead, really because I had no natural talent. One of those teachers swore up and down that anime was going to ruin an entire generation of art and used mine and my friend's art as examples. In college, one of the professors, who's still there and tenured by the way, told me to go ahead and drop her class, even though it was an elective, because there was, and I quote, "no point in refining a skill that I won't use." And that since I wasn't an art major, I was just embarrassing myself. I also had plenty of artsy friends that prided themselves on being, let's just say, brutally honest. Though I will say the last straw rolled around age 19, when the squeeze of an ex-boyfriend of only 3 days gave me a ton of unsolicited advice on something I was working on for the aforementioned class. While I'm well aware that I could have ignored all that and kept going, I didn't. It's really hard to invest in something when all you get is negativity. Confidence is a huge factor in building up a skill. When I dropped out of college, my interest in art did too, and so did all of my hair, but that's another story. But then it crept back on me, slowly, as I started getting back into watching TV and playing video games, which, now that I think about it, is probably one of the reasons I was miserable in college. I got back into fandom culture, which changed drastically since I was in high school. Gone were the days of Gaia Online and message boards. Now there was social media like Tumblr, Instagram, and Twitter. People could draw on tablets and take pictures with their phones. You didn't need a scanner to post your art, and it was all in one piece. I had a bunch of ideas, and writing was, and still is, a lot of fun, but it wasn't enough. So, inspired by the likes of Casey Art, Kosumosu, and Surfer Cage, I picked up a pencil 12 years later, and I made this TikTok. Thanks to this book, and this book, my well-meaning parents, and a series of incredibly unhelpful and usually malicious art teachers, I now draw like this. And I was never that great of an artist in the first place, but I really want to get back into drawing, and I used to practice almost every day, but as I got older, more and more people tried to actively discourage me from trying to draw better, from my friends to my art teachers. And at age 30, I really feel like learning how to draw again is kind of beyond me. Like, I can't grasp the style that I want, and I've been looking things up and trying to practice and whatnot. I've got this really old Huion tablet, and I'm sort of learning how to work it, but I could really use some help, because I really want to get back into it, but I don't really know how. And I'll admit, with this particular TikTok, I did kind of let a few people down because they were expecting me to chronicle my progress on TikTok, but I eventually had to quit it for a variety of reasons. But I have been making progress, doubly so since I was gifted a tablet 2 Christmases ago. I love CSP, and using those CSP models as a crutch has been nice, but I'm even starting to move past that these days. The phrase, "you can't teach an old dog new tricks," is kind of outmoded because things happen so fast now, or maybe I've just gotten slower. I digress. We're a youth-obsessed culture that seems to believe that you should have everything you want by the age of 25. A career, a spouse, a car, a house, and X number of kids, and if you don't have any of those things besides this invisible amount of time, something is wrong with you. But the reality is that success means so many different things to many different people, and it's not really possible to measure it. We're learning every day, and that's a good thing, because you can teach yourself anything, even if it's from a child's tutorial. In my art, and by some extension my crochet journey, I've realized that no one really expects adults to want to learn a new skill unless it's to make money. And this has only gotten worse since the big bad of 2020. With people losing their jobs and not able to leave home, it was time to adapt. Hobbies like baking and photo editing became monetizable platforms rather than hobbies. Most of the drawing tutorials I get these days are from social media because most YouTube videos feel like they're geared toward high schoolers or people who are intent on making a career. And honestly, they can be really patronizing. And even when geared toward adults, it's usually tied to portfolios and how to get hired. Maybe I could make money off of art one day,
but it is not this day.
I sucked it up at first. Beggars can't be choosers, and I'm certainly a beggar. But as I started to improve and needed some more specific lessons, it actually started to grate on me a little bit. To be honest, I despise the slightly mocking, "you should have known this the whole time" tone of TikTok-esque content in general, but that's besides the point. One video said something along the lines of, "Practice this in math class and get back to me." Bro, I promise you, I am a 33-year-old woman who is very tired and just wants to learn how to properly draw sleeves and clothing folds. I figured complaining would get me nowhere, so I started to look outside of the internet for more resources. Our local library had books on painting, ceramics, and animation, but very few on actual drawing basics. In fact, the only book I found was a slightly updated how to draw manga book from the kids section. I sucked it up and checked it out, but it didn't really help with my predicament. Very much draw an arm and a sleeve and you're done type beat. So I looked at my local community center and looked up still life and figure drawing classes. What do you mean it's in the middle of the day? What do you mean it's $150? There are plenty of community art classes outside of that center, but they were just as expensive, and if they weren't, they required you to bring your own materials, which if you only have digital art resources can be just as expensive, and I'm not a teetotaler by any means. But the rest of the classes were all insert art medium here and sip, and I just didn't want to.
It'd be weird just to say that you don't drink.
Yes, it would. Yes, it a little bit would.
Plus, I'd only technically be paying for half the class. The rest is for the wine. Once again, I am aware that this all sounds like plaintive bitching, but I can't help but feel like this is a part of a bigger problem. There's a certain vibe that when a woman over the age of 25 wants to learn something new, they figure she's either divorced and bored, or wants to keep up with the kids, or wants to get into it to get herself a man. As the years wear on, this sentiment dies a little more, which is great. But that also makes it all the more jarring when it actually comes up. What other hobbies do you have? Oh, I love to bake and do fiber crafts. Oh, is that how you managed to get engaged? Excuse me? Actual conversation, by the way. And then there's the expectation of if you're going to learn something, you better make money off of it to make it worth it. I could go over the pitfalls of hustle culture and how literally no one has gotten rich off of it since 2021, but that would be a waste of time. If it makes me happy and improves my, honestly, dismal mental state, then it's worth it. Fighting burnout isn't just taking a self-care day or two and jumping back into it. And sometimes you just need to do something with your hands, which a lot of people still don't seem to understand. None of the teachers I had back in the day understood that I could doodle and listen at the same time. Those weren't satanic symbols, Miss Rogers. They were the nobody and heartless symbols from Kingdom Hearts. Anyways, the prevailing idea that you have to post what you do on social media is also a pretty dangerous one. I'm not a fan of the assumption that you have to share everything or you're hiding something. When you reveal that you've made or done something or have a certain hobby that someone didn't know about, people get mad. And it's not just a chronically online thing, as people like to say. It happens in real life too. Office gossip mongers will drop the words fake or two-faced the second they hear some information they feel they should be entitled to. Listen, I post about 3% of whatever I make on the internet. I did the math. Most of it is just for TK. And if I do post it, it's usually after a ton of revisions, and even then, I have to decide whether or not it's something I want to post before I even make it. I really don't want to subscribe to the whole McCarthyist, if you don't want to show anyone, then it's clearly gross and perverted. That's stupid, frankly. You don't have to post anything anywhere if you don't want to. I said this to a friend of mine a while back, and they asked me something that tripped me up at the time. They asked, then what's the point? Well, you are the point. One of the things I've learned through this whole debacle is, as an adult, as long as you aren't hurting anyone or yourself, you can do whatever you damn well please, and the people telling you that there are certain rules, or their 5-year-old could do that, are assholes. Time is a circle, but we only go around once and in one direction. You can lose parts of yourself along the way. And while some should stay gone, some things find their way back and better than ever before. There is so little about our lives that we can actually control. Hobbies are just a small part of regaining that agency. And you don't have to show anyone. You don't have to abide by rules that are unspoken or like secret code. Sometimes you just have to do the damn thing. It's natural to avoid things we have no innate talent in. But talent isn't a magic ticket that makes you super good at something for all time. Most hobbies are skills. Skills are learned and have to be practiced. Sometimes you just can't grasp those skills as a kid. Children aren't the only people who can or should learn new things. Routine is safe and easy once you get it down. It's not so much a comfort zone as it is a structure, but maybe it feels like it's not enough. Maybe you start to feel at odds with the world around you, a little alienated, and this isn't a bad thing. Maybe you just need a change of heart, a change of mind, or of pace. You're never too old to start something new, and it's not a crime to be bad at it. There is no shame in being an adult beginner. Please like if you like this video. Please subscribe if you really like this video and would like to see more. If you really like me, you can find me on Patreon, where I post uncut, uncensored content the day before it goes up on YouTube. I know things have been a little bit shaky for a while. I have been very quiet for the last month. That is for a variety of reasons that I would like to keep to myself. Maybe I'll put it on Patreon at some point. However, I would like to thank you all for sticking around. There are going to be some different videos coming. The reactions aren't stopping, but I did promise that there would be a lot more analytical content, so to speak, so I hope you guys are ready for that. You can follow me on any piece of social media. That would be Tumblr, TikTok, Twitter, or Instagram, but mostly just Tumblr these days because fuck Twitter and fuck IA art while I'm here. Fuck that! And with that being said, stay weird, lovelies, and happy eating.